Okay, you good?
Good.
How's it, everybody? And welcome back to Adam and
The Bee, Season 2, Episode 1.
Say some more numbers so I can be more like.
Season 2.
I just made us
two. There you go.
just 2 if you didn't get that. Season 2. Welcome back to our crazy world of talking about random things amongst really important and educational things.
Well, this season, we're going to narrow it down quite a bit, right? So we talked a little bit about our relationship. We talked about who we are. We shared some personal stories, and now we're going to dive into a whole new realm of the musical journey as a DIY independent artist. What it even means to be independent.
Oh, I'm getting excited. You haven't even started drinking yet.
Got a little riled up. We got the milk tart in the background. So more importantly, let's start with a little recap of what happened.
Yes. So basically, we started our podcast. We did season 1. And we were doing a mashup of relationships and music because we're in a relationship and we both do music. So we just thought it would make sense to talk about our relationship as well as music. But then the more we started thinking about it, we really wanted to zone in on a niche, and we wanted to really stay focused on helping to educate artists similar to ourselves, the DIY, more specifically the indie artists, the independent artists.
I'm not recording our audio. I should do this again.
Oh, we're not recording audio?
I think we need to do that again, actually.
How do you know we're not recording audio? Thanks, folks. We will see you in season 3. Have a good one.
Good thing, don't wreck a good thing. Good thing, don't wreck a good thing. Good thing, don't wreck a good thing. A good thing.
And we're back. It's just very normal after having season upon season upon. No, I'm just kidding. It's normal to have some technical difficulties after being out of the game for 6 whole months. Yep, that's how long it's been since we uploaded our very last podcast episode.
It has. So they say when it comes to podcasts and just anything on the YouTube podcast side of things, it's a journey where you just got to do it consistently and get better each time. And so we appreciate everyone's patience in terms of what that looks like for those first couple of episodes.
And also, if we start looking up over here or down here, it's because we don't know which camera we're actually working with today. So bear with us. But we're excited to be back with our very casual podcast. But we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to educate you, and we're going to have a blast. And we are keeping hydrated with some really delicious. Well, first of all, we have confetti. Cheers.
Cheers to season 1 as well as season 2. So this is going to be episode 1.
Cheers.
Of Adam and the Bee.
But before we drink, do we tell them what it is? Or afterwards? All right.
Let's just take it.
Just FYI.
I don't know if you're supposed to do that.
Make sure to lick your lips and your teeth, because we have a lot of cinnamon on here. And it tends to stay on your teeth, and that would be quite funny. Maybe I shouldn't have told him that, because then we could have had some really good content to post.
I like that. Just chalky lips.
Chalky brown teeth. But
I don't know where to go from that.
So basically, I just wanted to point out, because this is a South African drink, and it's called milk tart. And my brother and his fiance actually gave us this when we were visiting last December. And it is so in South Africa, we have a traditional dessert called milk tart. It's like a milk-based pudding with like a crust, like a pumpkin pie type crust. And this is it kind of tastes a little bit like an eggnog, but it's spiked for just a little extra spice. And we added cinnamon on top, but it is so delicious.
It's got a nice kick, and it's a South African. What do you call it? It's not a delicacy.
Another little swig right here.
So it's a liqueur, but it's also got what is it? It's a dessert that it's known in South Africa, of course.
I'm just.
But that's not why we're here today.
That is not why we're here today.
We're here as Adam and the Bee, and so we thank you guys for the first season. It was an incredible start to the journey, and most importantly, we're going to dive into something more specific this season. So we talked about our relationship.
And if you didn't know, I'm BINX.
And I'm Adams.
Also known as the Bee. Also known as Adam. It can get quite confusing, so keep up. But if you did watch season 1, thank you so much for coming back for season 2. And if you're new here, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to get into what we're doing our podcast about now. So like we said, it was very relationship centric, very music centric. Now we're going to be focusing full on music. How's that sound?
It's got to be a little sprinkle of life, right? Because art imitates life.
Of course, always, always. So we are going to be talking a lot about the DIY independent artist. And for those of you who don't know what that is, we are going to talk about what it is. And we're going to talk about what we're going to be doing for our upcoming season in season 2.
I love that. So first off, what prompted us to land on supporting the DIY artist? What made you think, okay, this is a good
Thank you for asking this question. I was so unprepared.
What is a DIY artist on top of that?
Exactly. So DIY stands for
do it yourself.
I was hoping you were going to get that right. Good. Ding, 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 ding. We're going to get our sound effects board sorted at some point. So right now, if we just tap over here and make noises, that's our invisible within the budget sound machine that we just invested in.
Balling on a budget out here.
As everybody is in LA, right? We're all
that inflation got real in 2022. It's been a while.
No inflation talk, no COVID talk. That is out the door.
We just did it, but I guess we'll keep moving.
Well, we are back, and we want to talk about the indie artists, because essentially we are indie artists. Mm-hmm. We're independent artists, and
also DIY, right?
Right, and we do everything ourselves. And so we wanted to touch on this topic because there's not a lot of information out there that really truly helps the independent artist. And we thought, you know what? We're learning this stuff as we go. We're dealing with all of these things on a day-to-day basis, and it takes a long time to research, figure these things out. It's a lot of knowledge, and it's like, and it's time to share with everybody else and help other people who may not have known about these things before, and just have a safe space where we can all just grow together.
Exactly. So we're going to continue to create and build our platform in conjunction with Spread the Love for up and coming artists. Make sure that you guys have the tips and tricks to be successful and overcome some of the objections or obstacles that most DIY artists face, especially in a new landscape where the budgets have changed. Not all artists are on major labels, and sometimes it's not the best benefit to be on a major versus being indie. And there are some great examples, Russ being one of them, where it really changes the game in terms of ownership and being a DIY or indie artist, how that can shape the landscape of your career.
Absolutely. So let's pull up good old Google. And for those of you who don't know, because if those of you are joining us who just love to hear us waffle on about things.
But they know what Google is, right?
I don't know. Do they know what Google
you're talking about the DIY artist. Got it. Okay.
All right. So we're going to talk about the definition of a DIY artist, and we will see, and we can kind of talk about what we think about that. Mm-hmm. So a DIY musician, or do you want to read it out?
Yeah. A DIY musician is a musician who takes a do-it-yourself approach to building a music career. That is, a DIY musician must literally do everything themselves. A DIY musician might have a small network of friends, family, collaborators, and acquaintances that assist them with tasks from time to time. So what are your thoughts on the Google definition of a DIY musician?
I would like to commend you on your reading skills, because
Thank you.
I
got confused there. I got halfway through.
I was enjoying the way that was being worded. It was pretty sensual, pretty sensual. But so basically, DIY, is used in multiple industries. Do it yourself. It's when you don't have, maybe a massive team behind you, maybe a huge budget, and you're kind of doing a lot of the work yourself. And for those of you who don't know, a major label artist is somebody who's signed to a record label, where they are basically essentially being given an advance, a nice big pot of money at the end of the rainbow when they sign. And whether it's up to the artist or the team as well, they kind of decipher where that money gets spread into, who they're paying, marketing teams, etc. And so for us, being independent artists, you don't have a team, you don't have a budget, because whatever you're earning and making from music, which is minimal, has to be spread among so many different things in order to compete with those major label artists who have all of these tools.
Yeah. But the good news is, in many ways, the major label in the past really acted just as a bank, right? They would fund your career in the early stages in exchange for ownership. So now artists are giving away a large percentage of ownership, especially if they don't come in with leverage. From there, it could be 85 cents on the dollar that they have, but they give you this advance. Now, out of that advance, maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $5 million, depending on how hot you are as an artist. At that point, you now have to pay all of your expenses from that advance. So it's not as if it's just
free money.
Here's the $5 million. You're good. I mean, obviously you pay taxes, but you also have your producers and everything else that you're going to end up having to cover. Business managers at that point, lawyers, that comes out of your advance, but you still lost ownership of your music. So in instances where,
which is a massive price to pay down the line, and we'll get into that.
Yeah. So we're not going to dive too deep into the publishing on this conversation, but more so just a quick overview of independent versus if you're on a major label. So if you're independent, it doesn't mean that you're not able to do collaborations with producers or work with lawyers. It just means that you're doing it more proactively, funded on your level, and you're not funneling through the main resources that a label would have. So the reality is what independent artists are really striving to do is take the framework and the infrastructure that a label offers, whether it's marketing, just different campaigns that they're doing on their side, take that and being able to replicate that as a DIY artist.
Absolutely. And to add to that, so a lot of times why artists want to sign with major label deals is because, like you said, not only do they give you a massive advance, but they also provide connections to massive radio stations. They provide marketing, billboards up in Times Square. They get you showcases at, massive festivals. There's a lot that comes with being with a major, which is why it is so tempting to want to sign with a major. And I think I'd be lying if I didn't say that was my main goal. My whole entire music career was just sign with a major label. And as times have changed, you start really realizing what you value the most. And so what will come into play as we discuss the difference between a DIY artist and a major label artist is ownership, like you mentioned. It's being able to own the artwork that you make. And not only that, but monetization, and as well as retaining your creative control.
That's a huge one. I'm glad you said creative control, because a lot of times they don't realize when they sign to a major, there are many more influences that come in along the way that prevent people from being able to live and express their full creative freedom.
Right. And so, we're not harshing anybody's mellow on who decides what they want to do with their music career, but what we're focusing on is, because we're indie, that's what we know. So we're going to share our knowledge about what it's like to be an independent artist and how to utilize tools that are similar to artists that are on a major label in order to build ourselves up to that scale. And it also depends what your values are, right? If you prefer having a company help you, but they take more of your creative control, they take more of your revenue, but they provide you with a larger scale audience at a quicker pace versus an indie artist, it's kind of like a slow climb, So major label artist is kind of like taking an elevator, taking an escalator, and an indie artist is taking the stairs. That's actually such a great way to put it.
Yeah. And there's no one size fits all.
If I do say so myself.
I like to take the stairs sometimes.
It's always good. It's healthier to take the stairs.
But it's that happy meal in a box kind of concept, right? Like some of it's just prepackaged. It works and it looks good. But sometimes it's worth the long road for sure. And we're going to dive into that space. And again, there's no one size fits all. So some people may be a better fit to be able to go onto a label. But the reality is the core of the artists that are coming out here. I mean, we have so much technology that's allowing for us to be able to do it ourselves, that you even look at this actual podcast itself. I mean, this is an independent podcast that we're running, not working through some major distribution. So
definitely. And I'm excited because we are going to learn. So we're going to learn about the different, sorry, I'm got distracted because I saw a blinking red light on the camera and I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it's not good. So we're going to just keep this going, and whatever happens, happens. So basically, we're going to talk about a couple of the topics that we're going to cover throughout this season. And the first is going to be building a team.
Building a team. Okay. So when it comes to building a team, I would look at that first and foremost in the creative process, right? Because nothing moves without the music or the art itself. So I'm curious. Let's go through a quick recap of how your year's gone, because I know you've done a lot of collaborations, me being one of them, but most importantly, there's other artists and producers and whatnot that you've been working with and starting to expand your horizons musically. So what does that look like for you to build a team?
So I'm really excited about this topic because as you mentioned, it's something I've really, really focused on this year. And we're going to have a full-on episode about this. So we're just briefly touching base on all the different things we're going to discuss. But building a team could be just people you collaborate with. It could be having a lawyer, a manager, who else?
Working with other producers, working with other artists.
Right, and just all the different people, the marketing team, a PR person, a social media person. It's like finding all those people who can help you, because there's so much to do, especially nowadays. It's like it just keeps piling on what the artist is responsible for, and we're going to get into it with the social media, but there's so much that artists are responsible for that they feel like they have to do in order for their music to just get out.
And in many ways they do. I mean, the definition of what it means to be a musician now, I mean, there's a small percentage that can just let the music speak, but more often than not, it's got to permeate through multiple levels, and social media being one of them. So we'll do a deep dive into some of those other components.
Yes. So building a team will be one of them.
Yeah.
Copyright will be another one.
Yeah, copyright's a huge one, right? So
super important.
Most importantly, who owns the actual music? And then when you are doing collaborations, how does that work out? Or if you're using samples versus splice versus original music, and
yes,
how that plays a role in synchronization, or if you want to do TV, film, commercial placements, all of those things play a role in terms of who actually has the copyright to the music. So there are some great resources out there when it comes to who owns the sound recording, etc. Again, we'll do the deep dive later, but you got to ask those questions. Who actually owns the copyright?
Because FYI, you probably don't know this, but if you write a song and you step out the door and you work with other people on that song, it is up for debate whether or not you own that song. And it leans towards the side of everybody who worked on that song has ownership stake in that song. So if you don't have your paperwork lined up, we're going to get you to where you got to be with that. So
publishing, that leads to the next piece, which
exactly.
is publishing and song splits, right?
Exactly. Look at you go.
There you go. We're on the same list here.
And song splits is, oh, right. You got your phone. I didn't realize your phone was down there. I was like, wow.
Should tell the people that like,
I was like, he did his homework
right here. So
I know. Because if I'm also looking down there, it's not because of anything else. Maybe it is. Who knows? But yeah, so we'll talk about publishing, talk about song splits, and how to, allocate who gets what percentage of the pie being the song.
Correct. If somebody puts 2 words into the song versus, and it changes depending on the dynamic. So
yes.
There's a lot of debate when it comes to publishing and song splits.
We have so much juicy stuff for you. And we've got content creation and marketing. So social media, we're going to be talking about how much should you post? Should you make music video visualizers, lyric videos?
What kind of content should you
post?
What
kind of content, and how just how high quality is your content that you're posting, because technology is going like this so far.
And also how many platforms, right? Like
yes, which platforms to use, because now it's like get on 20 different platforms, post on every platform to be engaged.
Yeah, you can stretch yourself too far thin, or you can just master a handful of platforms. But then also, are you really getting the audience from those platforms? So there's this weird debate right now of like, how do you actually pull the data to have a more intimate relationship with your audience? There's definitely the discords out there, the multiple like more intimate connections that you have.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that have a layer where you don't necessarily know who your fans are. Maybe you see analytics, but you don't have enough details if you want to do an email blast. And so we'll talk about how to actually penetrate past that as well.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about also not spreading yourself too thin. Burnout is such a massive, mental health is going to be such a massive topic on this channel, because we're going to be talking about how not to overexert yourself and how to keep most of your energy towards your creativity and not spreading it all over the place, because it's easy to. There's so much admin involved.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when it comes to mental health, there's this point where if we're doing it for the result versus if we're doing it for the actual expression. And so there's this point as an artist where naturally people want to monetize their art as much as they can. And it could be endless. I mean, you could literally have a career, be doing millions of streams, but then it's like, it just creates more problems along the way. So how does an artist deal with the mental health piece of it. And we see some of the biggest artists in the world right now
Oh my
going through some
gosh.
challenges, and it's fair because, you know, the beautiful thing is it's opening up that dialogue for the first time. And that may not have been available to us a few years ago. So that's some of the good that's come from the last few years, is that I would say that a lot of celebrities, a lot of famous individuals that are in the music industry are now speaking out about mental health, and they're much more loud and proud.
And not only are they speaking out on it, but they are also taking the necessary steps that are needed. A lot of artists back in the day would really push through and really fight because there was so much money involved and so many technicalities, so many people's jobs are involved. And to just cancel a tour like that is, oh, there goes the blinking light. It's about to end probably. But the thing is, there's so many factors, but I really do respect the artists that have been taking the time to just call it quits and be like, you know what? I gotta peace out, and I gotta go home, and I gotta work on me, and I gotta give myself that time, because a lot of artists, I mean, think about how many artists have passed away because they've been spread too thin and they've had too much expected of them and they pushed themselves too hard. And now a lot of artists are actually just saying, you know what, I can't do it. And whether that's a worse sign because they're worse off, or whether it's a better sign because they are, you know, feeling much more strong to just say, I needed to, they can recognize when they need to take a break. So that's really important.
So we'll talk about the balance, and that also goes into when you're doing your live sets versus when you're doing your recording, and how do you have enough life inspiration throughout the course of your days and weeks and months to create the right kind of music that's going to send the right message. And if you're only doing one part of it, sometimes the other pieces get neglected. So there's got to be balance in those different quadrants in our life.
Definitely. And because we're both artists, we're also both producers. So we're going to be talking a lot about the recording process, and we're going to be sharing tips and tricks on how to build a studio. You know, Adam's had his studio for how many years?
Long enough.
He's had his studio for so long, and he's built it up over time. And that takes a lot of money as well, and a lot of research that goes into that, because finding the right equipment and how, you know, maybe some products weren't lasting as long as they should have. And then there's other equipment that you've had for years and years and years that could still keep going and don't lose their value, like you mentioned.
Yeah, there's certain ones that almost even increase in value, or they just become just staples in a studio. So just knowing the right setup, and then depending on where you're at in your career, there's different budgets, and you could spend $5,000, you could spend $500 depending on the scenario. So you got to find that balance. But we'll talk about different ways, tips and tricks, based on what your budget looks like.
And shows, we're going to talk about performing, you know, pay to play, finding local gigs, how to find your fans,
virtual performances, how to get creative without having to, you know, being able to take ownership and being resourceful versus some of the existing model, and how we can challenge the existing model, which you guys are going to see in the very near future on our side.
Right, exactly. And being able to really put on a show, like really, really put on a show.
Which you really, really put on a show.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet.
You do.
Well, we both do. I think that we do an excellent job with that. And I've done my rounds in New York of performing every single day. So I would hope that I was doing a good job with that. But, you know, getting your show to a place where people really want to come back and see you, and you leave them wanting more, you know.
I'm going to give you guys a pro tip. Just
look at the vision board. You can't see it, but I will tell you what it says: rehearse, don't regret.
Yeah, well, it's not only you're rehearsing, but I will say, having seen you perform quite a bit at this point, your genuine self comes out in those moments on stage.
Aww.
Which is just, it's beautiful to see.
Aww.
It really is.
You're so sweet.
I mean, people don't know how genuine it is, but like, I can see it because I know you at this point. And
you know me?
I hope so. You don't know me. No, but yeah, that's one of the most special parts of your performance. Aww. Outside of obviously the talent piece.
That's so sweet. That's really sweet. He's a keeper. I'm gonna keep him. And we're gonna talk about this one. So like you mentioned earlier on, collaborations. Mm-hmm. Such an important thing. And this goes in every industry. I'm gonna go over that one, and then legal, we're gonna talk about. This is so important, and the most boring one, in my opinion.
Get your paperwork right.
Oh, get your paperwork right. There's a lot of paperwork.
If you want to get your paperwork right.
That's exactly a good slogan. If you want to get your paperwork right. We're going to make a song about that.
Want to get your paperwork right. Want to get your paperwork right.
Want to get your paperwork right.
Get your
Want to
paperwork right.
get your paperwork right. Ah.
And that's how a song gets created.
That's exactly right. The making of a song. Stay tuned. And we're going to also talk about fan acquisition. And there's multi-million-dollar many more questions that we're going to go through. I mean, topics, not questions. And questions. If you have a question, if you're a major label artist or an indie artist, we're all here to learn from each other. This is going to be so much fun because we're all going to learn together. We're going to share our knowledge with each other. And it's just going to be an incredible community where we support each other, share new releases, and have interviews with other creators. We just shot our very first interview for season 2 with Michelangelo, so stay tuned for that. And we're so excited to just learn from other creatives and share what they know.
Yeah, most importantly, this is going to be an interactive platform for all of us. So if you have any ideas, any things that you want us to cover.
I was going to say, it sounded like you started rapping there. You were like,
any potential people you'd like us to interview, we're definitely going to dive deep with industry professionals to make sure that you guys are getting firsthand real life experience. It's not just the research part of it. Naturally, we do research along the way, but we want it to be as interactive as possible. So if you guys have any thoughts or best tips and tricks, and we'd love to get your guys' feedback along the way for sure.
And if there's something that you have a question to or a topic that you need covered that you can't really seem to find enough information online, shoot it to us in the comments and we will do our research and we will do our best to get a really great video together for you. So I think we're going to just wrap it up there, except let's just briefly say, you know, over the past 6 months, we've released some music. And I just wanted to say congratulations to you because you just released an album. What's the name of the album?
So it's called Impressions. It is Impressions because it's all about the idea that in life, there's little moments that happen and it leaves this little impression the same way, feet in the sand. So if you see on the actual album cover, it's these 2 footprints, but it gets washed away.
When you see it, you will know that we went through a lot of stress trying to take that photo, but it came out great.
We'll tell you guys the story about that another time. But Impressions, that's out now. Make sure to check it out. It's a collection of the work that we've done over the past year, and we've got a whole lot more music coming.
So much.
And you, girl, you have been busy between the visualizers,
busy bee, you might say,
and the marketing, and there's a whole lot more that you're going to talk about later on. But
yes, so
what's been new your way?
I mean, both of us, we've been releasing music every 4 weeks, so we have been in the studio nonstop, which has been wonderful. But we're excited to start the podcast again and do some shows. But we've been releasing music every 4 weeks. So I've released some songs that he helps me produce, all of them, and I've released Bizarre, Fouls, Fame is a boy.
Fame is an F boy. You can say that.
Fame is an F boy, but with the swear word.
Yes.
And what else? I have a song coming out on the 13th of October. And which
one's coming out on the 13th?
Lemon Trees.
That's a good one.
We're excited for that one. It's a
the stock market. When's that one coming out?
Ooh, stock market. I think November. So very excited for that. But we've got so much music. So head on over to my Spotify, which is BINX, and to his Spotify
at Mada Adams, MADAATOMS.
And also don't forget to add us on all social media. First, of course, Adam and the Bee, and then Mada Atoms and BINX Official. And you can find us. Oh, and make sure to rate this podcast 5 stars and comment it and say it's the most awesome podcast you've ever listened to, even if it isn't. And just, no, don't lie. Don't lie.
It'll be awesome. We're going to make it awesome.
We're going to make it. You're going to make it awesome. Yes. You're going to make it awesome. We're going to make it awesome. We're all going to make it awesome. I think I've awesome. Had too much milk touched. You're awesome. But thank you.
You guys are awesome, most importantly. So we appreciate you guys tuning in for episode 1, and stay tuned for an incredible season.
And tag a musician friend. Let them follow along. Let's all go to the top together.
And if you have anybody you want us to interview, hit us up in the DM.
Yes. If you're an upcoming artist, musician, producer, songwriter, vocalist,
anything
guitarist,
creative. If you do
drummist,
anything with art,
djembeist. I don't know if that's a word.
Fan of a djembeist. If you're a super fan, come holla at us.
Come holla at us. We're so excited to be here. Thank you for tuning in to season 2, episode 1. And we will see you soon.
I'm Adam.
And I'm BINX. And together we are
Adam and the Bee.
Adam and the Bee.
We're going to work on it.
Yeah, we're going to work on it. But
appreciate you.
Bye. See you soon.
Good thing, don't wreck a good thing. Don't wreck a good thing. Don't wreck a good good thing, a good thing.